All right. You in? You get here. Let's I'm gonna send that frame up just a little bit more. Yeah, I'm playing with the camera. We're already broadcasting. I know. Hey, the wait's over. We're here. How you doing? Phew, buddy. It has been a week. And we've heard a lot of noise about the omnibus bill. We've heard a lot of noise about gun rights, so on and so forth. We have got a lot of ground to cover tonight.
Oh.
And that's part of what makes the algorithm work. So, we're going to have to talk about the omnibus a little bit. But I don't want to go into it too much. I don't want to go too deep into the omnibus spending bill. I think there's a lot more that we're going to learn over the next week. I suspect we're going to see some madness around that. Now, as for everybody running around with their hair on fire, this is the end of the Republican Party. Guys, that's crazy. This is not the end of the Republican Party. The Republican Party didn't die when Donald Trump capitulated to the enemy and signed the omnibus. That's not it. The Republican Party died when W was elected. The Republican Party has been off life support since before Obama started failing us. The Republican Party has been the correct vote for the last 30 years for one reason and one reason only. Because Republicans fuck things up slower than Democrats. That's it. The only reason Republicans deserve your vote is because they fail slower than Democrats.
And a little less irreparably.
Ooh, I don't know if I'd go that far.
Really?
Although
the two may be tied together, because, you're talking about a 4-year, 8-year term max, right?
Yes.
So if you do it slow enough, someone can come in and unfuck it before.
Yes.
So maybe I'm just being redundant a little bit when I say that.
And the Republicans rarely maintain power for more than one presidential term.
Right.
Now, for the last 50 years, almost, it's been back and forth, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. Well, no, it's a lot more than twice the weight, babe. And that's... But we cannot keep having... Do we need to move that light so you can see the monitor better?
I can just do this. It looks stupid, but I can do it.
Well, just reach up and shove that light over. You don't have to move it too much for it to...
There we go.
Is that good?
Yes.
All right. We can actually reposition that before we broadcast again. Change the angle would be good. Anyway. They fail slower. It's not like they're pushing back against the spending in any meaningful way. That at least would be something. But spend. We can't keep doing that. We just can't keep spending like that. Now, babe, grab the boy. I think he's coming into the studio. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on the omnibus because I think we're going to learn a lot more about it. Here's what I really want to talk about tonight. Here's what's really got me concerned. So we've had a couple of school shootings the past few weeks. we had Parkland, Florida, and then we had the one in Maryland last week. No town halls, no big interviews. Nobody's talking to the students. Nobody's having conversations with the survivors. Guys, believe it or not, even if it's the case that the shooting in Maryland was much less severe, only 2 people were injured, and only the killer died. Which, by the way, let's be clear on this real quick. The Parkland shooter is still alive. The Parkland shooter is still alive. Think about that for a minute. The shooter in Maryland, he's not alive. He's dead. He's done. Because he was stopped by... what? Oh, an evil gun. You know those evil guns that wander the halls of our schools and eat children without being attached to, I don't know, a human being with the agency to make bad decisions.
It's quite a beautiful change of heart story, actually. The gun really had a come to Jesus moment and said, you know what? I'm going to go after evil this time.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one? It's fine. So we're not hearing anything about this, about the situation where a good guy with a gun stopped the bad guy. No, of course not. That fucks the narrative. We can't have anybody, we cannot have people aware during the same week, the week after the school walkout protest and the same week of the March for Our Lives protests. The narrative just cannot tolerate an armed, law-abiding citizen eliminating a criminal correctly in a timely manner there at the scene before he could do serious harm. Now, I don't mean to downplay the injury sustained by the 2 students that were shot, but they did not have 17 dead that day, precisely because a man with a gun put the killer down. But that doesn't serve the narrative. Now, let's get to the narrative for a minute. I'm sick to death of hearing these leftists say, what do you think it is that I'm sick of hearing, Cade? Take a wild guess.
Good Lord, that's a long list.
Well, we're talking about gun control, so guess.
Well, we've covered blame it on the gun. Okay. The intentions of the founding father? Intentions of the founding fathers?
That's one. But
okay.
here's the big one.
Okay.
The one lie that every single one of these lying gun grabbers keeps repeating. The single lie that has got me more bent around the corner than any other is this lie. We are not interested in full confiscation. They continue to repeat that lie, and it's horseshit. It's absolute bald-faced horseshit. I could almost believe that these people were interested in restricting access to firearms because they believe that the restriction to the access of firearms would also have the result of making us safer. I could almost believe that in a very different political climate. But ask me to believe that your interest is not the aggregated curtailment of my constitutional rights. And understand, when we say constitutional rights, that does not mean the rights that are given to us by the Constitution. The rights that are given to us, there are no rights given to us by the Constitution. We have constitutional rights. According to the Constitution of the United States, I almost wish the document had a different name, because people get confused. But let me explain you some shit. What does the word Constitution mean? The word Constitution does not mean a document which defines a government. A document which defines a government is a constitution. But in the same way that all beetles are bugs, but not all bugs are beetles, not all constitutions are documents which create a government or define the construction, the material, the foundational intent of the formation of a government. We have constitutional rights because those rights belong to us by the constitution of our humanity, by the fact that we are constituted naturally, including those rights. So no matter what God you do or don't believe in, to be constituted of something is to be made up of, yes, thank you, dear, to be made up of, or consisting of, or entailing. We are constituted as human beings to include the rights which belong to us in a state of nature. Now, we do ask the government to exercise certain powers. The organization of large groups of people to monopolize not the use of force, but to monopolize the control of force in such a way as to prevent force from being used to coerce individuals is a reasonable expectation of a government. That is a thing that we want a government to do. We consent to the government the authority to use force only to prevent the use of force to coerce individuals. So, why do we need the Second Amendment? Why should free people have guns? And why can I not believe in this modern climate that the gun grabbers aren't interested in complete confiscation? Because at the same time that they're telling me they don't want to take my guns, that they keep pretending like they don't want to take my guns, even though the clear trend now is this absurd interest in, oh, well, we don't want to take all guns. Are you ready for this? Just the semi-automatic ones. Okay, that's every single handgun in modern production. The only handguns in production, they are not in modern production. Handguns that are not semi-automatic, muzzleloader muskets, they are novelty. One must seek them out. You don't go to a gun store and buy a plain old musket. If you live in a good state, not Shitburger, California, and there are gun ranges which sell firearms, I'd give you pennies to pesos. They don't have a single muzzleloader musket pistol in the joint. They've probably got some Glocks, some SIGs, some Walthers, some Smith & Wessons, so on and so forth. But to find a muzzleloader, no. Even your revolvers, even a modern revolver, is dual action. That's semi-automatic. One trigger squeeze, one bullet. One trigger squeeze, one bullet. So, if they're allowed to ban all semi-automatic weapons, which they're clearly intent on doing, then the Second Amendment will allow us to have bolt-action rifles and pump-action shotguns. Okay, I can get the job done with a pump-action shotgun or a bolt-action rifle. But that does not exactly leave me adequately armed to defend my country, my state, or my family against an over-tyrannical government. At the federal level, those in power are interested in disarming the populace precisely in the same way that they are interested in everything else looking like Europe. In the UK, there is no right to keep and bear arms. It's very difficult in the rest of the world, largely, to buy a firearm legally. In other countries in the rest of the world where firearms are readily available, with the exception of Sweden and a few, essentially the ready availability of guns is due to a lack of government, not to a free governance of like-minded individuals. What you find is that outside of the United States, you do not have the right to keep and bear arms. Guess what else you don't have? You don't have the right to speak freely. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say that Jordan Peterson, Sargon of Akkad, those guys, a lot of them, well, they're liars. Now, I don't mean that they have been actively lying. They have not gone out of their way to deceive you. They have been made liars of by the British government. Because people like Sargon of Akkad, Jordan Peterson, have been saying, Jordan Peterson, for example, Jordan Peterson has been making the argument that the recent changes to the laws in Canada, which make it a criminal offense, sentenciable up to a certain amount of fines and some time in prison, to misgender a person, to refuse to use the silly ze/zer pronouns and that kind of thing. He's made the argument that that is a violation of the principle of free speech, and that the principle that people should have the freedom to speak, that people should have the right of free speech, is a Canadian value. It is a and he argues that it is a European and Western value. So, who's heard about the Nazi pug? I just told you about the Nazi pug a little while ago.
Right.
There's a comedian, YouTube talent, goes by the name of Count Dankula. I'm not going to use his name here. I'm pretty sure he's been fully doxxed, but I'm not going to add any fuel to that fire. Count Dankula made a video. His girlfriend has a pug. The pug's cute. She goes on and on and on about the pug being cute, to the point that he got tired of her talking about the pug being cute. And so he taught the pug to do the least cute thing he could think of, which was a Nazi salute. So he taught the pug to do his Nazi salute when he says certain Nazi things. I guess I'm just gonna not repeat them here, because God knows we don't need any more hurdles to our monetization and subscribership, motherfuckers. Oh, anyway, Count Dankula made a video. It's a joke. It's funny. The pug raises his right paw like his little Nazi salute when Dankula says things like Zig Heil and so on and so forth. It's silly. Some people might be offended by it. But, here's the thing. Nobody actually filed a complaint with the police. Nobody actually filed a complaint. There were no complaints made. Despite that...
How did they even hear it?
It was on YouTube. Despite that, the police raided his home, arrested him, and understand this case has been going on for like a year. Just this past week, Count Dankula was convicted of being grossly offensive. It has been that gross offense has been classified as hate crime, and he is now about to be sentenced later this week. The expectation is he'll be sentenced to spend probably a couple of months in jail.
I'd like to point out something without getting onto the actual rabbit trail of this, which is easy to do. This immediately takes me to a point that I was making with you about a week ago, which was that every 1984, V for Vendetta, THX 1138, all of these dystopian visions of our future are always presented as being what would happen should conservatives be in power for too long. And yet, every single example we have of flirting with that dystopia has always been brought to you by a Democrat. Other than the only thing that they ever have is they like to say, if you're not with us, you're against us. Something that Bush said about the war on terror.
Yeah.
That's literally it. That's all they can use. And they use that clip over and over and over again. About a war that, by the way, every Democrat was gung-ho about to begin with.
And voted for.
But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. This dystopia that we're seeing I would say the fringes of, this is straight up right from one of those stories.
Yeah.
This is absolutely, without a doubt, this Nazi pug thing is straight out of one of those stories. And it is absolutely 100% leftist in every form and fashion. Anyway, that's it. Go ahead.
So, that, in the wake of the apocalypse, YouTube demonetization, the obvious shadow banning, censorship from Twitter, Facebook, the entire monolithic construct of the press and of expression is twisted against the First Amendment, is twisted against the freedom of speech. Our entire global, and this another one of the problems with globalism, the entire global matrix of communication is hell-bent on the absolute murder of free speech. So we have... No, dear. They did not catch the social media. That's right. They managed to find the guy with the Nazi pug and convict him for hate speech. But they didn't manage to follow up on the hundreds of social media posts threatening to become a professional school shooter that were made by the Cruz kid. So...
From local to the FBI.
Oh my God. That's just some bang up police work there, guys. I mean,
17 lives.
Wow. Okay, welcome to the rabbit hole, because
and we haven't even gotten to Sonic the Pledgehog.
Oh my
running
God.
around handing out promise rings to all the people who are
Go for it.
pledging to never ever buy the evil gun. This kid, seriously, I hate to sound it sounds like such a bully thing to say this, which is why I said it to you not on YouTube, which is what I'm about to say here. But this kid has the most punchable face I've ever seen in my life.
It's okay.
He's just begging for it.
You can be a bit of a bully with a kid like this because he's a bully.
Right. But he doesn't look or sound like one, and he's all about protecting people by making them defenseless. So He's not a bully. But Sonic the Hedgehog is exactly that. He darts around the United States, somehow appearing in California and Florida and all that. And I'm not getting into the whole conspiracy theory about him being a crisis actor, because there's Sonic the Hedgehog, as in
the kid's name is actually David Hogg.
Hogg, right? And I call him Sonic the Hedgehog because he darts everywhere, and he's just like one of those all the other teenagers making pledges all the time, and the whole ring connotation, obviously, with Sonic. It's seriously, he's throwing out promise rings for everyone. Look, we're not going to have sex before marriage. This ring proves it. Proves it. It's not like putting on a chastity belt or anything, but we're just going to go on good faith. And that's how we're going to stop school shootings. You guys promise, okay, to never buy a gun and to stand up to the mean people with the guns and make them stop. Just like the kid at the video, I'll present it this way. The guy who went to the school meeting, the parent who pulled out a knife, and he said, "What are you going to do?" And then there's this long-haired neo-hippie kid who runs off laughing and going and nervous laughing, and then he's looking back saying, "Yeah, you can't do that. That's illegal. That is highly illegal. That is highly illegal.
That's a switchblade. You can't have a switchblade in here."
Obviously, had he been at Parkland, it's so sad that this kid was not at Parkland. Had he been at Parkland, he could have stopped that super easily just by running around going, "Hey, Cruz. Hey, Mr. Cruz. Nick, highly illegal what you're doing right now. Highly illegal. Stop it. It's illegal, and you can't do it." And what would Nicholas Cruz have done?
Well, honestly, I don't understand why everybody's getting in such a tizzy about Nicholas Cruz shooting all those kids. I mean, he couldn't have done anything wrong. He must not have broken any laws. He must not have done anything illegal. Because how could he have shot all those people if it was illegal?
And it's clearly said gun-free zone.
Because
it was the education system that failed.
Well, no. My point is, if what he was doing was illegal, then we wouldn't be trying to pass laws to get rid of it, would we?
Right.
I mean, we make things criminal.
By the way, it's criminal to shoot and kill someone.
Yeah.
Who didn't do anything.
That's a crime.
That's already been a law for quite some time, since the Ten Commandments.
Even if the law actually allowed every student, regardless of age, to carry a firearm to school, even if the law allowed for that, it is still a crime to murder.
Yes.
That's a crime.
Has been for quite a while. In every society.
And it didn't slow him down. If it was a crime to own the gun, do we really think, it's not even an argument that needs to be made anymore. Quite frankly, the gun grabbers, they're not interested in safety. If they were interested in safety, they would take measures which improved security. But then you get people like Joy Behar on The View says, "You don't want me to have a gun around kids." Why? Because you actively fantasize about murdering children? See, that's another one that kills me.
She does look the type, though.
We keep hearing these teachers who are pro gun grab, who are pro gun control, and I can't tell you how many of them I've heard basically make the argument that they're afraid that if you give teachers guns, that you're going to have an incident where a teacher just loses it and kills a bunch of kids. I'm like, and I mean,
that's going to happen anyway. If the teacher loses it and wants to kill a bunch of kids,
he's gonna. Well, and I've heard several of them actually say the same thing Joy Behar said. "Oh, you don't want me to have a gun around these kids. If you can't be trusted with a gun around the children, you can't be trusted around the children."
Yeah.
If you're the kind of person who believes that they are capable, if
that's the case, or
if
trust
you
around
personally
humanity.
believe that you personally are capable of and an active risk of murdering children given the opportunity to do so, no, you don't get to be a teacher. Absolutely any teacher that expresses this, that makes the statement, you don't want me to have a gun around the kids, should be terminated immediately. And any teacher that makes the statement, there are teachers I wouldn't trust to have guns around the children, should be brought in for questioning, asked to identify the teachers that they wouldn't trust. And those teachers should be investigated if the statements are reasonable.
Not to mention, the United Kingdom of Great Britain should send some people over here to take Joy Behar, because she's obviously gone way too far. She needs to be imprisoned. She's basically a Nazi pug. What's the difference?
Remember after Sandy Hook when what was that British dude's name that we got rid of? Oh damn it! This is gonna be a lot funnier until I forgot his freaking name. He used to be a commentator on CNN or one of those.
Yeah, only because you just said that. We just talked about him.
Yeah, we just talked about this.
Oh my god.
Anyway,
that's just okay.
Pierce Morgan.
Yes.
Remember back after Sandy Hook when we kicked Pierce Morgan out of America because
bye bitch.
because he was oh, not anymore. That wouldn't happen today. Kind of lost the thread of it. Okay, so the lefties want us to believe that they don't actually want to take away all our guns. The lefties want us to believe that they're not interested in actual full-scale gun confiscation. Horse shit. They're actively pushing things like hate speech laws. They're actively seeking things like hate speech laws. Obama was one of the worst things that ever happened to the Fourth Amendment with his rapid and drastic expansion. Now, don't get me wrong. The Patriot Act didn't do us any favors. Okay? But Obama took the weaponization of the intelligence services and the deminimization of the Fourth Amendment to an incredible great distance. Essentially, we do not have any rights at all that the left is not interested in diminishing, unless it is a right which is perceived by the left to belong to you based on a victim status. They're interested in securing new rights, gay marriage, transgender bathrooms, things like that. They're interested in creating new rights, access to health care. These are not rights. You do not, by the constitution of your humanity, have the right to the deconstitution of someone else's humanity. You cannot create a right. Healthcare is not a right which exists in a state of nature. Therefore, it is not a right. I like that, babe. Yeah, hot button rights. That's adorable.
Which reminds me, one thing I've said about the Democratic Party over and over again is the party two main strategies that they use, and they're brilliant. They know exactly what they're doing. They it's baby steps and knee jerk. Baby steps, knee jerk. Okay, they understand that the only way to make a lasting communist society with an acceptable fascist government, a fascist government that we all go, yeah, they got us. That's Papa. Mama and Papa are taking care of us. Is baby steps. we can't make something last by having a coup or some, you know, Napoleonic type of government switch. It has to be baby steps. That's how you make change last. You introduce it a little bit at a time. And the other thing is knee-jerk reactions. You want to make a big step towards something because it's taken too long? Boom, school shooting, knee-jerk reaction, play on emotions, make something happen immediately. Oh, the baby step's taken too long, knee-jerk reaction. And through those things, if they have Democrats in power, in places of power, long enough, high places of power, not just the presidency, but I mean Congress, for multiple terms, it passed 8 years. Thank God we haven't had any party last past 8 years in our lifetime. But that's how you make it last. It's brilliant. I mean, it's LBJ looked like an idiot. He looked like an idiot. He presented himself as an idiot, a redneck. I mean, he came across like a polished turd. I mean, it's like you just put an idiot in a suit. But the guy was brilliant. I mean, he was brilliant. And whether or not he actually said, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 60 years or whatever he allegedly said, that was his intent, and that was his goal, and he absolutely did it. They managed to capture every single, what's the single issue voters, what are they called? Besides single issue voters, like the people who
Democrats?
Concentrate on one thing. Yeah. But that's how you get contradictory stuff. Like you get people like, all cops are racist. Cops are terrible. Cops are the worst part of the government.
Can't trust cops.
But let's take all the
Julie,
guns.
how are you?
But let's take all the guns away from everyone except cops.
Right.
That's how you get those contradictions.
Because when seconds matter, the police are only minutes away.
Go God, we don't have a gun. We don't have a gun, and someone's got a gun. What do? We call the people with guns, and we wait. Now we play the waiting game, because the only guy with a gun on campus is, pussying out.
Okay. I'm going to take a brief pause from the actual conversation for just a minute. So we only had, basically my wife was watching until about 12 minutes ago, and now we've got 5 people watching.
Start from the beginning later, guys.
So, maybe we'll just keep... let's see. It is... I don't know what time it is because I got my passcode wrong. It's 10 till. So... God, I'm a little out of sorts because I got 9 hours of sleep last night.
Oh, congratulations.
After that party.
Uh-huh.
Shoo, buddy. Oh. Rod, that's adorable.
If I need a gun, someone will bring it to me. That's right.
It's funny you should say that. In the Zimmerman trial, he talked about how when Trayvon attacked him and knocked him to the ground, he lost control of the gun for a moment, and they struggled to grab the gun. And Zimmerman said, I'll never forget this exact sentence. It was no longer my gun. It was suddenly the gun. And that was why he made a big point in his defense. Rod saying that if I need a gun, somebody will bring it to me. Yes. If somebody brings a gun to a fight, it is my gun. That. Anyway. I didn't, babe. I didn't get the passcode wrong. Like I forgot it. I fat fingered it. It's an Apple Watch under this thing.
That's tiny. That's huge. I have lady fingers.
They're roughly the same size.
Yeah.
The world is not built for us. We demand giants' rights.
Actually, like I said, I've got lady fingers. I'm doing okay.
Yeah, well.
I hit my head on stuff all the time, but other than that, I'm good.
So.
They both reach for
the gun. They both reached for the gun. We should have rehearsed that.
Yeah. I never have gotten it right. Like the right number, I get stuck at they both. And then I just, it is they both. And like, where's that entrance? I got to drop it. Where is it? They both. Just give it up.
All right. Yeah, I'm kind of losing the thread at this point. I think we've covered most of what I wanted to. Basically, you cannot believe people who say that they don't want to take away all the guns when it's not only clear that that's what's happening, but they're actively working to get rid of the First Amendment, to get rid of the Fourth Amendment. I can't wait to see him come after the Third Amendment. That's just going to be hilarious. And I want to ask him this. I want to ask this question: as far as disarming felons, if being a felon, because if you're a convicted felon, you can no longer carry a firearm. You can't own a firearm, and you also lose your Fourth Amendment rights. As a felon, the police can enter your home and search you at any time. So let me ask you this: if felons don't have, I mean, how do we justify taking the rights away from the felons? Does being convicted of a felony strip away all of your natural rights? Does it make you no longer a citizen? And the reason I ask this question, if felons are not allowed to have firearms, if felons can be stripped of their Second Amendment rights, can be stripped of their Fourth Amendment rights, can they be stripped of their First Amendment rights? Can we decide that violent felons are no longer allowed to attend churches? That felons, I mean, not even violent felons. You don't have to be a violent felon to lose your rights. Just a felon. Are felons no longer allowed to engage in the petition of the government for redress of grievances?
You can be an embezzler and not be able to defend yourself.
Can we torture felons for information pertinent to investigations of their known associates? Because if we're stripping rights, we might as well get rid of the is it the Sixth Amendment, Seventh Amendment?
Oh, I don't know them as well as you do.
6, 7, 8. Trial by jury. 8th. It's the Eighth Amendment. If we could just strip away all the other rights, then why don't we just go ahead and get rid of the Eighth Amendment and say, you know what? Fuck it. Let's torture the drug dealer felon so that we can find out who his distributor was. Now, yes, damn it, Rod, I was just about to say that. Yes, the 13th Amendment does explicitly retain within the law the legal use of slavery in the case of conviction. If you have been duly convicted of a crime, then you can be sentenced to slave labor as a punishment for that crime. And it specifically says slave labor. In fact, I would go so far as to argue that the language of the 13th Amendment would permit the use. We could take felons who are currently incarcerated and make them the property until the term of their sentence of, say, a farmer. Hey, here's your 7 felon slaves. Work them to the bone. And it would not even be unreasonable or even, frankly, an added expense to the current construct of law enforcement to go ahead and pass off an armed guard. You know, hey, here's a big farm. We're going to put a miniature cell block on the farm. Right? Give them five slaves out of the prison population. Station a couple of armed guards to keep the boys in line. And there you are. You work from sun up to sundown. You get three hots and a cot.
Now, I mean, the Democrats would be all for that as long as they were all white males.
Oh, I just finished writing this whole dissertation on the othering of the white man in Mad Max. I entitled it Furiosa versus the Patriarchy. Because totally. All right.
I want to get what Julie said several minutes ago. I want to do an entire series on this. We can't get into it tonight. It is a huge thing. She's talking about 13-year-olds used to be adult. Yes. And that has the incredible detriment to society that has taken place as a result of excusing childhood now into your 20s.
Oh, yeah.
Well into your 20s.
The artificial augmentation and extension of adolescence.
Yes. The word teenager
is in my show notes.
The word teenager is an excuse to let adults continue to be children and make poor decisions because they're just children. And now, seriously, they're taking it's into the 20s. And it's knocking on 30 at this point.
Yeah. People
don't get married into their 30s now. Until they're into their 30s. But that's we could do a whole series on that. Hours and hours and hours.
And we've been meaning to. There's a note on the wall over there about it too. Yeah, I point at the wall sometimes.
There's a wall here. And it's got stuffs on it.
That's all stuff we're going to do later.
Did the green stuff show up?
No.
No, I'll have to look at that later.
Amusingly, the majority here. Watch the screen. Watch the screen.
Nah.
So, yeah.
All that black you see are green things.
Yeah, there's green sticky notes up there. There the green screen.
Yep.
Anyway, all right. I think we're done for the night.
Oh, another important thing we learned. Pugs are still freaking adorable.
Yeah,
even with swastikas on them.
You can put a swastika on a pug, and you still
adorable.
Who's a good boy?
Who's a little A-dog? Who's a little A-dog?
Who's a little killer?
A-dog. A-dog the pug.
So.
Yes, it is all the Beatles' fault.
Until next week, remember, if you build a man a fire, keep him warm for the evening. But if you set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Good night.